Hi everybody, it's Tatiana once again, and today I am coming to share with you the series that I finished in 2017. One of my reading goals for last year was to finish any series that I had started, or as many series as I could that I had started and actually had a final book. And I want to say I was pretty successful in doing that. In 2017, I finished 7 series. Let's get into them. I'm going to try to make this as quick as possible. This is like the 4th video that I'm recording today, and you all know that I am like very rambly, so I've been talking a lot. The first series that I finished, or not first series, but the first series that's on my list that I have in my planner, was the Infernal Devices series by Cassandra Clare. And then I also finished, I'm just going to do both of them together since they're by the same author, the Mortal Instruments series. Oh, you know what? I also finished the Bane Chronicles. So that's 8 series that I finished. And the Bane Chronicles is like a whole bunch of short stories. I'm going to talk about the Mortal Instruments series first, because in my opinion, the Mortal Instruments series should have ended at book 3. So I basically finished that series because I started it. I don't think that the story itself was good enough to continue for a number of books that it did. But having said that, I did enjoy the Infernal Devices. I enjoyed the Infernal Devices, number 1, because she was smart enough to end it at 3 books. Number 2, I liked the characters better. Number 3, I think it was also like the setting, because it was set in the 1800s or early 1900s. I like that series a lot better. I like that each book, while they all consisted of the same 3 main characters, each book focused on a different character in that outfit. I liked the villain a little better than the first book. I think the villain, in this sense, outside of the tool that was used for the villainry, is that a word? It just flowed better, and it worked better with that trilogy. Or again, it could just be because the trilogy ended at 3 books. I also finished the Bane Chronicles, which are a spin-off of short stories from the Infernal Devices series, but actually need to be read before the Lady Midnight stuff that's coming out, and I'm undecided as to whether or not I'm going to read that. If I do, it will probably be by audiobook. But yeah, I finished that series as well, and I had only read like 3 of the short stories in that series prior to this year. So I finished all of those this year, but I did them as the mashup as opposed to counting each one individually on Goodreads. Next, I started and finished Sweet Tooth by Jeff Lemire. I had heard so much about this series, and at first when I read volume 1, I didn't think that I was going to enjoy it as much as I did, but I really did enjoy the series. I think I bought volume 1, but I borrowed after reading volume 1 and not being sure about it. Volume 1 is one of the books that I read that made me say, get the rest from the library before you decide to buy the rest of the books in the series, because it might not be something that you want to return to. And so I borrowed volumes 2 through 6, which complete the series, from the library, and I'm glad that I did. While I really did enjoy the series, and I liked that it was contained, and it basically was what it was, I liked the world that Lemire created. However, it's not something that I would go back and read again, so I didn't buy it. I finished the Faithful and the Fallen series, which I have a video review of. You can check that out if you want to. I love that series. And the Faithful and the Fallen series is by John Gwynne. If you are into epic fantasy, all of the books are long. The longest book I want to say is 746 pages, but they range from about 553 to 746 each book. falls within that. The third book is actually the longest book in the series, but it's the book I read outside of the first book the fastest. So, yeah, loved it. I also finished the Queen of the Tearling series. I read the first book in the year that it came out. I think that's right. But then it'd been so long since I read the first one, and I had read quite a few fantasy series that starred females with some kind of power, and so I reread the first book as an audiobook this year, which I thoroughly enjoyed. The narrator who did it had the voices down pat, and she was good. She was good. And then I continued on to read and finish Invasion of the Tearling and the Fate of the Tearling. This series, while it started off very strong and very enjoyable, and it ended very enjoyable, it did not end strong. And in fact, in ending the way that it did, it kind of did some things to the whole makeup of the story that just left me completely deflated and disappointed. I also finished the Girl of Fire and Thorns series by Rae Carson, which I really enjoyed. I will say that the series is a little anticlimactic, but good in its anticlimacticism. That's probably not a word either. I'm just making shit up. I am so glad that I read all three of those books and that I have now finished the series. I'm currently working on the final book. This is January, but I'm reading the final book in her Gold Seer trilogy, and I think Rae Carson is going to be an author that when she comes out with the book, I'm going to read it. I know now and have an understanding of her process and like what the formula is for her books, which isn't a bad thing, like that you figure out the formula. But as someone who reads and gets connected to characters and is like, oh no, what's gonna happen? I needed to figure that out so that I could like not have a heart attack while I'm reading her books. So yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed that series. I would recommend it. It is great as far as having a lead female character who is a person of color, who is not just slim trim chickadee, and just put in situations where she has to really rely on her brain. Like what she thinks is going to be her savior is not her savior. And she really has to rely on herself and get confidence within herself to make the right decisions and grow into this role that she's been thrust into. Really enjoyed it. I'm rambling. I need to keep moving. Then I also finished the Summoner trilogy by Tar Matharu. For me, that series is over. There is a book 4, but it follows a completely different character than the first 3 books, and I am not that, because I liked the character that is going to follow, but I only like the character in relationship to the main character in the first 3 books, so I'm really not going any further than that. So for me, the Summoner trilogy is a trilogy, or the Summoner series is over. So I'm counting that as done. And I really enjoyed the final book in the series. I think YA series can have such icky endings where endings don't happen well. And that was not the case with this trilogy. I'm happy with it. So, yeah, I'm going to stop talking. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a good weekend, whenever you see this video. Peace out.